espelho me deixa perfeita.
Claro, Telly. Esse é o modelo morfológico 732.
Welcome to Too Much Media.
Why, hello there. How do it do, my brethren? Anyhow, I'm about to put you on to the best movie to come out in 2024 so far. It's on Netflix, so it's easy to watch. It's called Uglies, okay? Let's see what the summary is. In a futuristic dystopia with enforced beauty standards, a teen awaiting mandatory cosmetic surgery embarks on a journey to find her missing friend. Wow, that's insane. When you hear the summary out loud, that actually is insane because that is what it is. It's like, it's mandatory plastic surgery. It's mandatory, okay? There's no choice. Everyone needs plastic surgery by a certain age in this world. It's with Joey King, the girl who was in Kissing Booth, remember? They give her all the best Netflix movies. That's crazy. Oh, she also played Gypsy Rose in the movie or the TV show, whatever. Wow, that's nuts. Yeah, her. And guess who else is in it? John B, bro. His real name is Chase Stokes. But if you watch Outer Banks, real people who, yeah, those who know Outer Banks is that show. John B is in it. And then Keith Powers is in it too. And I was telling my friend that I watched this movie. She's like, oh yeah, Lucky Blue is in it. You know, Nara Smith's husband is supposedly in it. And I just want to tell you now, I don't know who started the rumor that he's in this movie, but he is not in this movie. I do not count what he did as being in the movie. When I'm telling you they flashed his face for 0.02 seconds, like he literally, they just flashed his face. He could have not ever even stepped foot on set. They could have literally gotten a picture of him from the internet and just flashed pretty people's faces through the screen. Like he was not in this film. He never spoke. His mouth never even moved. Like he was acting like he was speaking. Like he was not in this film. I'm sorry. If there was end credits, I don't even know how they would have described him. There's no way to remember him. Anyway, let's move forward. Okay. So in the future, the world has fallen into chaos after exhausting all natural resources. So it's like typical, dystopian movie beginning on some Divergent stuff. Like imagine literally the set of Divergent, how like there's one area of the city that is livable and then the rest is just like ruins and stuff. It's the same type of concept where like the world is barren except for like one small area of the world. That's like a city that they managed to like keep the rest of society just staying there, okay? To keep humanity alive, scientists first create genetically modified orchids that are a new energy source. And second, a surgical procedure to enhance human beings in both appearance and fitness to prevent prejudice and discrimination. So yeah, basically the idea is that now since everyone gets to be pretty, they can cut out the like problems of like, like bullying and like, pretty privilege and like all of these issues that society has because of looks now are all gone because everyone gets to look pretty. But the thing is, they keep all the ugly people who are not old enough to get the surgery together in one place, and then all the pretty people get to live in another place. So it's like if you're not pretty, you don't get to live with the pretty people. So it's like your existence is not even acknowledged until you're pretty. But the thing is, it's plastic surgery, so they can't give kids plastic surgery. So basically, after the pretty people have kids, like let's say you meet your pretty husband, you're in love, you guys decide to get married, and now you guys want to have children. You don't even raise your kids. So because your kids are ugly still, they're like made from the genetics of your formerly ugly selves. They can't live in the city where all the pretty people live. So you give off your kids to, I guess, the government at this point, and all the ugly kids live together until they're old enough to have plastic surgery. I'm not going to tell you, like, I don't know if I have an opinion on that, but that's basically what happened in the movie. So, okay, the surgery is performed on uglies. That's what they call the people who don't have surgery yet. Yes, they literally call them the uglies versus the pretties. And I'm like, isn't this supposed to be a society post these type of problems, but you're still calling people uglies versus pretties? Shouldn't it just be completely formed human versus unformed human or something? Like, I don't know, like, you guys are genetically modified. How are we considering you pretty? You're basically a glorified robot. But anyway, they said the surgery is performed on uglies when they turn 16 before allowing them to go to the city where celebrations occur among the pretties. Oh yeah, another thing about the city where all the pretty people live is that it's lit there. It's a non-stop party. They don't do anything that's considered work. They don't do anything boring. They don't do anything they don't want to do. They literally just have a good time all day, all the time. If you're pretty, life is just great. Like you get the best food, you get the best lifestyle, you get to do whatever you want. You just hang out with pretty people all day, partying and doing fun activities. Like it's supposed to be that like you really, really look forward to the day you get your surgery because your life doesn't only change physically where now you get to be good looking, but you also get all the benefits of pretty people. Like think about today's day of like how people are constantly discussing pretty privilege being a thing. It's like basically, these days, if you say pretty privilege, if you're pretty, most times, you get invited to parties, you get offered free things, you get, what else is something that's commonly given to pretty people? You get romantic advances. You're more likely to like be around wealthy people. What else is stuff they say pretty people do? I don't know. Anyway, though, but it's basically, the city is basically a city of pretty privilege. So all these things that like an ugly person in today's day or like in an average thought process, in an average society would think of as the privileges that pretty people have, they've created a city full of those privileges that you get to experience after your surgery. Okay. So they want to incentivize you to get the surgery. And one of the ways they do that is by creating a space for where only pretty people get to go that is better than the normal place. Because they don't make the ugly city anywhere near as fun purposefully, so that you spend your entire ugly life looking forward to the day you get to be pretty, because not only do you get to look at yourself in the mirror without shame, but you also get this fantastic lifestyle. Okay, Tally and her best friend Paris are uglies. Tally is Joey King and Paris is John B, aka, damn, I don't know what John B's actor's name is again, I forgot. Anyway, John B. But Paris, being 3 months older, leaves for his surgery first. So yeah, like they're both the same age basically, but he's just like, imagine like you're born in June and then your friend's born in March. So he's just a couple months older than her. So he gets the surgery first. Because the minute you turn 16, like I'm talking day of, you go straight to the table, okay? We're not playing with you ugly people. We can't stand having people beyond the age of 15 who are ugly. There just can't be, okay? And mind you, this is a movie, so everyone in it is actors. So it's really hard to conceptualize that they're calling these people ugly and what they're gonna look like after they're finally pretty. Because it's like, I'm telling you, this is John B and Joey King telling us they're ugly. I'm just looking at I'm watching the movie, thinking to myself, you guys have Hollywood actors trying to convince us they're ugly, and then after the surgery, they're gonna be pretty. And I'm just thinking to myself as like, I don't know, you could think of it as like symbolic of like, you know, a lot of times people consider themselves ugly when they're above average in looks, but because they spend so much time comparing themselves to like supermodels or like, you know, certain people who have constant cosmetic things taken care of for them, they think of themselves as ugly. But then you also could think of it as like, what is the average person watching this film supposed to think if even John B and Joey King are saying that they're ugly, you know? I don't know, you better have your self-esteem in check before you watch this film is all I'll say. So, okay, he leaves for his surgery first. The two share scars on their hand, which they also vow to keep despite the procedure. Okay, so basically when they were little and their parents threw them away, like that's what I'm considering this. Their parents threw them away because, like I said, the city is only for the pretty people. So once you have a child, you literally get rid of them because they don't have surgery. I think like they probably keep them through like toddlerhood or whatever, but like once you're an age where you can talk, walk, and speak for yourself, they send the kids to the ugly city. So no one gets raised by their parents. Like everyone's raised by robotic systems that like, because basically their wall tells them what to do. It's like a futuristic society. So imagine what kind of society, like, nah, because Xenon even had parents. This is so sad. It was like a society that was all like robots and stuff, but like still think Divergent, because you remember like they have like, you know, like super advanced technology and computers where you just like click on stuff on the wall and like, you know, your schedule appears, or like they also have these rings where like you touch the ring. It's kind of like an Apple Watch type of thing where it's like you touch the ring to make things work, and like they just have super like pre-planned schedules, and there's like robot, everything's AI, everything's robot. You never see like an adult taking care of the kids. It's just like, oh, we're sensing that you're in the wrong place, please get back to zone 3, or like it's just constant like robots and futuristic designs that make it so that the kids only interact with each other when it comes to humans. But as far as like actual adults, unless they're in class, the whole city is computerized. So they kind of just use the system to know what to do next, right? So when they were kids and their parents threw them away to this ugly city, that's how they met. They met living in this ugly city together. And they got so close and they bonded over the fact that they were super excited to finally turn 16 and be pretty and what they kind of wanted for their looks. Because when you get the procedure, you get to kind of decide what you're going to look like. So you can say like, oh, I want blue eyes or I want green eyes. Like the main character, Tally. Her dream is to always have gold eyes. Like she's like, when she has her surgery, she's gonna make sure her eyes are gold, and you know, you can like decide what type of, you know, nose you have, what type of everything. Like you can really fine tune yourself. So like you basically still look like a sketched version of yourself, but it's like fine tuned and perfect. Like it's like if you were to get like Botox and like you know, none of them are overweight, so I wouldn't say BBL or anything, but I'm sure BBL wise too. Like if you always wished like your butt was a little bigger, you could do that. Like if you always like were a little flabby, so now you want to be toned and add muscle. Like you can decide all the things you want for yourself to look like post-surgery, okay? So when they bonded as children over constantly discussing what they're gonna look like when they're finally pretty, one of the things that they did was cut their hand and like say that like we're gonna both have cuts on our hands because once we're both pretty, we might not be able to recognize each other in the city, and we want to be friends for life even after we're pretty. So since we have cuts on our hands, we'll be able to find each other in the city, right? Okay, so that just goes to show you how close they are. Like they were really best friends. And they vow also that even when they get the surgery, they won't let the surgeons take away the cut on their hand, because obviously once you're pretty, they get rid of everything. So like imagine, you know how like when you're a kid you get certain scars and stuff all over your body from like falling or little incidents, like little kid stuff, right? Like this surgery would get rid of that. You shouldn't have any blemishes on you post-surgery. So their thing is like, you know, once all the blemishes are away, they'll at least keep the scars so that they know it's them. Tally, anxious to see Paris again, sneaks into the city. Okay, wow. One thing about these Wikipedia plots, like they really give a lot of information. So basically, when we meet them, they're almost 16, both of them. They're both 15 and like a couple of weeks away from turning 16. When Paris turns 16, he goes to the city, and they made like a vow to link up after he has the surgery and moves to the pretty city, so that, you know, they can just talk and stuff. Even though she's going to be turning 16 within a month, they're still going to see each other like within a month or so. But like they're so tight that they're just like, yeah, like once you turn pretty, we'll just link at these places, because like I told you, both cities are entirely computerized. So they even have like certain blockades. Like there's a grid on the city. Like imagine like the cities are like game software of like certain places are coded and certain places are not, because like they even have hoverboards that like fake like are skateboards, but because the entire city is like coded in AI and like completely computerized, they're hoverboards, so they can like, everything's magnetic, so they can fly through the sky anywhere within the cities. Like they can hover anywhere because everything is computerized. And they even have figured out how to get past certain glitches that the city has. Like for example, for the girl, she'll say like, I want a cup to her ring. Her ring is how she can control things in her room, like, you know, if she needs anything. So she'll say like, I want a cup, right? And then she keeps spinning the ring like to make it glitch. So then the computer's like, cupcake. and then it thinks she asked for a cupcake and it will give her a cupcake. So like both of them have figured out a lot of little glitches that they can make the city do in order to like do things that they're not supposed to do. So like let's say for example there's a door, their windows are like not real windows in this world. Like it's a computerized window, so it disappears if you open it, and if you close it, it just becomes a wall. So it's like either it's a wall or nothing's there. There's no like screen door or like a window that you can pull. It's either like there's a wall there or you just get rid of the wall completely. So they figured out a glitch to like at times when they're not supposed to be able to open their window wall, they can do it still. Like they like glitch it to do it. Or like, for example, they're not allowed to leave certain areas. They've glitched it to be able to get into it. They're not supposed to use the hoverboard in certain places. They glitch it so that they're able to go places. So yeah, they're really smart kids. They figured out how to basically glitch a lot of things in the city to do things they're not supposed to do. Okay, just to give you context as to how she does what I'm about to tell you she did next. Okay, Tally, anxious to see Paris again, sneaks into the city. So she sneaks into the pretty city. She confronts him, but discovers that he has become careless and the scar they vowed to keep is gone. When Tally is they skip through so much information. Okay, anyway, she gets into the city and she finds Paris. When she finds him, he's new and improved and beautiful. He has gold eyes now. He has a new haircut. His face looks like really nice, but like to me, just like it looks like he has makeup on or something. And he just looks really toned. His outfit is crisp. He just looks like a new and improved version of himself. And this is when we see Lucky Blue Smith too in the city of pretty. They flash him real quick in a place of a party scene, and then we never see him again. So he basically lives in the pretty city, but like it's just to try to tell you the caliber of prettiness that they're looking for in the city, you know. But yeah, she runs into Paris, and he's new and improved and beautiful. And yeah, like they prettified him. Does he look better? In my opinion, no. In the movie's idea of what pretty is supposed to be, yes. But to me, the pretty people just kind of look like robots. Like they look like what you imagine in your head a pretty person would look like. But if you met a person who actually looked like that in real life, you'd kind of be scared of them. You'd kind of have you ever seen a person who's like kind of so pretty in the technical sense of what pretty should be that they're no longer pretty? Have you ever like seen that before? Like, you know, like when like ideally we say pretty should be like super symmetry, thin features and like bright eyes and like, you know, all these things that we say are pretty technically. A lot of times when you put all of those things together, it has a very alien look to it. It doesn't look very natural. It doesn't look very realistic or human. It looks kind of alien and creepy when you put it in real life, you know? Like we always say we want all these cosmetic, like yes, that's a good example even. Like think about the person you know, like I'm not saying in real life, but think about when you look at pictures of people with extreme amounts of cosmetic surgery and they technically have all the things that we consider a pretty person has to have. They have a strong jaw. They have like a chiseled like facial structure. They have you know, pretty eyes, what we call pretty eyes. They have like a thin nose but pointy and like, you know, and their lips are full but not too full and like perfectly shaped. Like think about that person with cosmetic surgery to have all those things. Like they never actually look pretty post the cosmetic surgery. They kind of look creepy, you know? So it's like they've done a computerized version of all those looks. So it doesn't look as creepy as plastic surgery does in real life. It looks better, but it looks more like a drawing. It looks more like a theory rather than a real person. So it's like it's pretty. But would I want to look at this all day, every day? No, I wouldn't want to look at this person. They scare me. It creeps me out. Their eyes are a little too bright. Like, have you ever seen someone with what we consider pretty eyes, but their eyes are so bright, you're kind of scared to look them straight in their eyes? You're kind of like, close your eyes, goddamn. They're like staring through your soul. You're like, ugh. You know, so it's like, he's pretty now. But in my opinion, John B, I'd rather have John B, okay? Okay. But yeah, when she meets him, he's like really weird now. Like, imagine like, it's giving very high school the way he acts after she meets him in the city. It's like, oh my God, I'm pretty now and an ugly person's trying to talk to me. Oh, the horror. Like literally when he sees her, he looks like he's seen a ghost. He's like, oh my God, like you gotta get out of here. You're ugly. You're not supposed to be in the city of the pretties. And she's like, what happened? I thought we were gonna meet up. He's like, I know, I just felt different after I got pretty. Like I just felt like I shouldn't see you because I'm pretty now. And she's like, what? We said we were always going to be friends. And he's like, I know. And we still are. You know, you're going to be pretty soon. Like, once you're pretty, we'll be friends. Like, you know, you'll get it after you're pretty. Like, I can't really explain to you how it feels to be pretty. But now that I'm pretty, I just don't feel like the same person. I feel different. And she's like, oh my God. And then she looks down, she sees his hand. She's like, where's your scar? You said we were going to keep this scar. He's like, I know, but it just wasn't giving like the look I'm trying to give right now. Like, obviously, look at me. I'm pretty. Like, I can't have that scar on me anymore. Like, it just doesn't go with my vibe anymore. But like, once you're pretty, you'll get it. Like, we'll talk later. Like, don't worry. Just wait 1 more month, become pretty, and then come back and talk to me. But for now, can you leave? You're kind of killing the vibe. You're not supposed to be here. And she's just like, oh my God, she's shocked. She's just like, what happened to my friend? Like, he's acting like he doesn't know me. He's acting like he's all up and high and mighty just because he's pretty. Like, this is sad. When Tally is discovered, she's chased by wardens back to the uglies' dormitories. So yeah, like basically, as I said, the city is computer tech, like computerized. So they realize in the system that she's not a pretty and she shouldn't be in the city. So now there's like little robots that fly in the air that are like police officers or wardens that are after her, trying to get her because she's in the city when she's not supposed to be. So she gets on her hoverboard and flies through the city and tries to make it back to the uglies' dormitories. She makes it back to the uglies' dormitories, and later she befriends Shay, a rebellious ugly who tells her about the smoke, a land of freedom in tune with nature. So basically, as she's trying to escape from the warden robot things that are chasing her, Shay sees her and like saves her because she like loses her hoverboard or something. I forgot exactly what happened, but she barely makes it from like escaping the police, and Shay's the one who saved her, which is how they become friends. When her and Shay become friends, Shay tells her about this place called the Smoke, which is a place that is like outside both of the cities. It's like in the ruin lands and like the outer skirts of both cities that a few group of people who have decided to stay ugly and not get the surgery have all decided to make us their own private civilization where they don't get surgery and they instead stay ugly and live life the natural way. So there's no computer systems there. It's not computerized. They just live off the land and enjoy life as their normal ugly selves. Shay encourages Tally to come with her and reject the surgery and seek out the smoke and its leader, David. Tally refuses. Yeah, so Shay's basically like, girl, like, we don't have to live like this. Look how you went to go meet Paris and he tried to diss you and act like you're a nobody just because you're not pretty anymore. Just because you're not pretty, and he is now. Like, now all of a sudden he thinks he's better than you and stuff. Like, you know, they have a leader there called David, and he's like a revolutionary, and he knows all these things, and like he knows about the land, and you could do that instead of getting the surgery. The surgery is not your only option after turning 16. Because like, if you want to live amongst the uglies or in the city and stuff, you can't stay in the city of the uglies, because the rest of the uglies are going to look at you crazy if you're older than 16 and still with the uglies. Like, nobody above the age of 16 stays in the ugly dormitories. So they're going to treat you badly in the ugly dormitories if you stay there past 16. And then so the only other option is to get the cosmetic surgery, and you can't go to the city of the pretties unless you get the surgery. So it's like your only option when you're living in the city is to become pretty or die trying. Okay? Like, you need to be pretty to live in the pretty city, or you live in the ugly dormitories and you can't be above 16 and live there. So this is your only option, right? So she's trying to tell her, like, there's another way. Like, you don't have to get the surgery. We could just go to the outskirts and be normal. Tally's like, hell no. She'd been waiting to have this surgery. Like, literally one of the things that they have a part of their, like, because, you know, they all have tablets and, like, little computers and all types of technology. Like, technology is very easily accessible in this post-futuristic world. And one of the things they do is they constantly look in the mirror, and their mirrors are able to, like, put a computerized version of themselves as a pretty person next to their real self, so that they can, like, edit. Like, they're able to edit their faces on their tablets to practice looking what they would look like as a pretty person. So it's like a fake mirror that changes. It's basically a filter. Whoa, oh my God. And this is why I love this movie so much. It just speaks about, like, our current day society so well, but, like, changes it into, like, a real version of a world that all the stuff we have in current day exists, but is more advanced. So it's basically like they're able to look at themselves with filters, but edit the filter in real time to, like, do whatever they want. Like, think about how right now, even you can go on Instagram and put on a filter, and, like, it'll give you, like, colored eyes, and you can change the colored eyes. Yeah, but it's a better version of that. It's like a more advanced version where they can, like, edit the eyes. Like, okay, I want like green eyes, blue eyes, gold eyes. Okay, I want to change this part of my face to have a little bit more of this on it, and I want, like, sharper eyebrows. I don't want, like, regular eyebrows. I want this type of eyebrows, or I want my lashes to be longer. I want, like, they can, like, edit it in real time as they're looking at themselves in the filter, you know? So that's basically what she's been doing her entire childhood. She's been playing with different versions of her face, waiting to become the pretty version of herself. So when the girl's trying to talk about some forget the surgery and we're gonna move to the forest with this man named David and live ugly forever, she's like, yeah, right. No, I can't wait to be pretty. Okay, on her 16th birthday, Tally is denied her procedure until she tells Dr. Cable. Oh, yes, I completely forgot about this. The owner of the cities is named Dr. Cable. I'm calling her the owner of the city because that's basically what she is. Like, there's not really a government. She's a tyrant. Like, she just is the person who is in charge of everything. So I don't know what to call her other than the owner of the city, because it's giving she's the owner, you know? So her name is Dr. Cable. And you know who plays Dr. Cable? I don't know her name. Let me say her actual name. The person who plays Dr. Cable, she's the lady from Orange is the New Black. Wasn't it Orange is the New Black? Dang, they didn't put her name on the cast list? Oh, yes, they did. Laverne Cox. Laverne Cox, she's the lady from... Yeah, Orange is the New Black's a transgender. Yes, they have a transgender owner. And I'm just thinking in my head, now this is film. Y'all made a movie about cosmetic surgery, and the person who runs the whole cosmetic thing is a transgender? Yes. This is writing. This is script. This is giving... We put some effort into this film. I love that they picked her to be the head of the city. And so, yeah, so Dr. Cable, a.k.a. Laverne Cox, okay? Wait, Laverne Cox be dating white men? Why do they have a split here with her and a white man? She recently broken up with her boyfriend. I'm getting off track, but... Cox previously dated Kyle Draper for 2 years before they split in 2019. She also brought her boyfriend Jono Friedrichs to SAG Awards. They were spotted being affectionate. Kyle Draper. Let's see. Kyle Draper. Yes. Okay. I didn't know you liked it, the white men's is. Love is love. I couldn't be part of her. Love is this gorgeous, intelligent, talented woman. Oh, wow. He loved her down. Wow. They was in a long-term committed relationship. I don't know why. I always imagined Laverne being with black people. This is interesting. Not to say I have anything wrong with her being with a white man, girl. Do you? Just didn't expect it. Interesting. Anyway, back to the film. Back to the film. Okay, Dr. Cable. Yes, so Laverne is Dr. Cable, the operations leader. Okay, so a lot of stuff kind of happened between this time, but basically in between the time that Tally is going to turn 16, her and Shay become really close within that month. Because as you know, now Paris is gone. Before, when Paris was there, he was her best friend. So she never really made friends with the other uglies. Like, of course, they all kind of knew each other because they all live in the ugly dormitories, but they weren't cool. Like, she didn't speak to anybody but Paris. Her and Paris spent all their time together. So now that she doesn't have Paris, her and Shay become close, and she becomes friends with some of the other uglies to, you know, spare her time. She doesn't have anything better to do now that Paris is gone. And when her and Shay become close, Shay teaches her how to get really good at hoverboarding. Shay, what's it called? Oh yeah, Shay's the one who teaches her how to hoverboard. Like, she never used to use the hoverboards before Shay. And, you know, she also teaches Shay a bunch of the little glitches that she knows about the city, such as, you know, the little cupcake trick I told you about, or like making her wall disappear at night so she can sneak out. And like little secret locations that her and Paris used to go to. And they just become really close. You know, they start confiding in each other about, you know, becoming pretty and how they feel about becoming pretty. And yeah, they just become mad tight now that Paris is gone. Right. So one thing about it, Shay keeps bringing up the smoke, that area where the people who decided not to become pretty live. And although now that Paris dissed Tally, she's a little bit interested in the smoke. She's still scared. Like, she's still kind of adamant on getting the surgery, you know? But she is now more willing to at least even listen to a story about the smoke. And like, oh yeah, and Shay ends up giving her a book. One thing about this new society, this futuristic society, there's no physical books. There's no physical anything, honestly. Most of everything they do is technology-based. So they do everything on computers, tablets, screens, those are the type of things. They don't do anything in physical form. They don't make anything with physical things. They don't they don't make clothes. They don't make, like, they are in uniform in the ugly place. When you're in the pretty place, you do get to pick your wardrobe more, but you're not going to make your own clothes, for example. You're not going to, like, you know, what's other things we make now? You're not going to make art. You're not going to paint. You're not going to draw. You're not going to do any of those things with a physical version of it. So there's no books either. There's no physical books. I think they do. They obviously know how to read, but they don't read books. Okay? There's no point. You're supposed to just become pretty at 16 and live your best life in the city of the pretties. So Shay gives her a book, and she, like, really ends up liking the book. I don't even remember what the book was about, but it's a little bit of a revolutionary book, I think. And Tally really loves the book, and she loves the idea of even having a book. Like, it's like this little taboo secret they share. And eventually, Tally tells her, like, hey, I'm not getting the surgery. I don't want to become pretty. I'm actually horrified by even the thought of getting the surgery. They try to make us feel horrible about ourselves and make us feel like we're not worth anything unless we're pretty. Like, why do I only have to be a person who means anything to the world if I'm pretty? And why do I have to change my entire, you know, looks just so I can be accepted? I don't like that, you know, ideology. I don't believe in it. So I'm going to the smoke. I want you to come with me. She's like, hell no, I ain't going to no damn smoke. Like, I'm going to get my damn surgery, okay? And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to leave you a secret code for how to get there, but I'm out. And so she leaves. She goes, links up with David, and whatever. Tally thinks that's the end of it, and she's ready to get her surgery. Her 16th birthday comes, and as I told you, the exact day you turn 16, you go and get the surgery. You don't wait a second longer. Tally is denied her procedure by Dr. Cable. She, like, when she's sitting there at the place where she's supposed to get the surgery, they call her name out. They call everybody's name to come get their surgery. And when it's her turn, they're like, come with us. She's like, come with us. It's not for me to get surgery. What you mean? They're like, hold on. You're a special case. Come with us. She goes to have a meeting with Dr. Cable herself. And before this point, we never met Dr. Cable in real presence. She's always like they always play a video of her, like, and our founder, Dr. Cable, is now giving us a way to become new versions of herself. And like, it's one of those propaganda videos, you know, like that classic dystopian propaganda video that they always have for every post-futuristic society. And Dr. Cable's at the head of it and telling you why you need to become pretty in order to live a fulfilled life. But now we get to see Dr. Cable in the flesh when she's talking to Tally. And she tells Tally, look, Shay's missing. We're worried about her. We think that she might have been radicalized by an evil man named David, who's planning to ruin the city and destroy everyone who lives here because he has radical views and he wants to kill us all. And we think Shay's been brainwashed because that's one of the things he does. Like, once he gets his hands on victims and people who are from here, he brainwashes them and then he turns them into a radical like him. And then, like, they're plotting on how to kill us all. So we need your help to find Shay because she might be in danger and he could potentially hurt her and the rest of us if we don't find them. She's thinking in her head, like, oh my God, is Shay really in danger? And secondly, she's also thinking to herself, I'm not trying to snitch. Shay done told me about this people already, and, like, you know, she's trying to go live her best life with them. If I snitch on her, that's going to be even worse for her. You know, that's going to be really bad for her. So she's, like, kind of in this dilemma where she's looking at Dr. Cable like, oh shoot, Dr. Cable's trying to tell me that Shay's in danger. I low-key want to tell, but at the same time, I feel like Dr. Cable might just not understand Shay's ideologies, and she thinks she's in danger, but she's not in danger. And if I tell, then she'll actually be in danger. So she's like, I don't know where Shay is. Please just let me get my surgery. I want to be pretty and be peaceful. I'm not trying to be a radical like those people. I don't want nothing to do with any of this. I just want to get my surgery and go to the pretty city. Dr. Cable's like, nah, you're not getting surgery today. She's like, wait, hold on, what? I'm 16. Like, I have to get surgery. What do you mean? Dr. Cable's like, I think that you might just be having some sort of memory problem. Like, I'm going to let you stay ugly for a couple extra days, and hopefully your memory will come back and you'll realize where Shay is. And once you can give me some information about where Shay is, we can schedule your surgery. But for now, let's hold off. She's distraught. Doctor, she's told that David is dangerous and will hurt Shay, and he's also building a weapon that will destroy the city. And she's like, she gives her a couple days. After those couple days, she goes back to her. She's like, look, I don't know where Shay is, but, like, I have a hint to where she is. Maybe, like, I don't know. She's like, I don't know exactly where she is, but I do remember, like, some little small detail. And she's like, Dr. Cable's like, oh, see, I knew I could believe in you. Here's what I'm going to do. You can get your surgery, but we need your help first. I'm going to send you to the smoke. Follow whatever clues Shay gave you on how to get there. And once you're there, I want you to signal me where they are so we can come and save Shay and stop David from destroying the city. If you complete this task and you do well, then you get to have your surgery. So off you go. So now they're sending her to be a double agent basically right now. So she has to go find the smoke, find Shay, find David, and then they gave her, like, a computerized necklace. As soon as she clicks it, they'll be able to, like, pin her or where she is, and then they'll come and get her. Okay. Tally is sent to as a spy into the smoke and reunites with Shay and meets David. So yeah, she gets to the smoke by this, like, she rides her hoverboard through the mountain. She climbs a bunch of different landscape. Like, she goes through so much to get to the smoke. Like, it's really, really quite the naturistic journey. And mind you, she's coming from a computerized society where she never has to do anything. So this is really, like, one of the reasons why the smoke is, like, kind of out in the cut and in a really hard place to reach, because you have to really be dedicated to not wanting to live this computerized lifestyle to come live with them, you know? So it's really difficult to get there. They make it super hard. They, like, you know, it's, like, through a lot of waterways and, like, you know, through, like, a long, long walk and, like, climbing a whole, like, cliff. And it's just a very difficult journey to get to the smoke, okay? So, but she does it. She makes it there, and she finds Shay. And when she finds Shay, Shay is with a group of people from the smoke, including David, the leader. Okay. The smoke reveals the orchid energy's source is toxic to nature, so the smoke rebels set them on fire to wipe them out. Okay, so when she runs back into Shay and David and them, she's like, oh my God, is this the smoke? And they're like, no, this is a halfway point to the smoke where we keep people who are willing to join the smoke for a couple of weeks or like just some time until we're absolutely certain that they really, really want this. Because we don't want to just take anybody to the smoke and then, they can compromise our position if they're not truly about this life. So she's not even at the real smoke yet, But one thing about it is after Paris had kind of dissed her and made her feel horrible about herself now that he's pretty and she's not, she had started to kind of question the surgery, but not to the point where she didn't want it anymore, just to the point where she just was kind of like, damn, like you really switched up on me over damn surgery. Like just because of a surgery, now you're acting brand new. Like she just was really surprised that Paris would do that to her, So it didn't completely radicalize her, but it did finally add some questioning to her. Like where now she questioned the idea of being pretty, where she had never questioned it before. She used to be a doubt, like 100% in. And so, and also she genuinely likes Shay. Like she genuinely messes with Shay. She genuinely has love for Shay. They're really cool. So she's kind of like, she's there as a spy in one sense, but in her head, she's also kind of just trying to bide time for what's a way she could do something to make everybody happy. Where she can still get her surgery, they can still live in the smoke, and she can make Dr. Cable happy with some sort of information. She doesn't know what she's going to do, but she's kind of just going through the motions of like, if they genuinely have a weapon and are going to try to kill people, I need proof of that. So then if I snitch, I won't feel guilty. But if they don't have a weapon and they're not trying to kill anybody, I don't know what I'm going to do, kind of. That's kind of her thought process, right? And when they're at this halfway point between the smoke, one of the things that they do at this halfway point is go to different areas in the forest and burn the orchids that are the energy source. So remember I said there's these orchids that the city plants in order to kill nature. So how they're keeping the city alive is they need a grid for the city. So everything needs to be barren in the land where the city exists in order for them to computerize it. And they can't get rid of nature by just getting rid of nature and like burning everything down and destroying the land. So what they do instead is they plant these special orchids that make energy for the city, but on the contrast, while the orchids make energy for the city, they also kill all the land where they grow. So since David and the rest of the people in the smoke are more about a naturalistic way of living, one of the things they do in their revolutionary cause is go to different places where the orchids are growing and burn it, so that way they can get rid of that area that is killing the nature and preserve as much nature as possible. So they're also they take a heavy interest in preserving nature. That's part of their cause. Not only is their cause for people not to hate themselves and think that they need surgery in order to be pretty, but also to preserve the land and preserve nature. Okay. Yeah, the smoke reveals the orchid energy source is toxic to nature, so the smoke rebels set them on fire to wipe them out. Tally and David share a moment and she tosses her tracker. How would they skip the whole movie in this plot? Wow. Okay, basically what happens is they go on these escapades of destroying the orchids, and when they're destroying, one of the people who are the rebels for the smoke is really suspicious of Tally because he's like, I've never seen anybody make it to the smoke by themselves. Like I told you, it's really difficult to get there. Like you have to go through all this terrain. You got to climb forests. You have to do so much to get there that usually they meet you in the city, near the city, and then they help you get through all that terrain. Like the rest of the rebels help you get through all that terrain to make it to the smoke. So or you're with like a group of people from the uglies who are usually also in the same opinion of you of not wanting to get the surgery, and you guys make the journey together. But never have they seen someone make the journey solo, all by themselves. Tally is the first. So one of the guys who's amongst the rebels, he doesn't trust her. He's like, something's going on with her. How did she make it here with no help? Okay, so he's a little bit suspicious. But then when they go on this rebel mission to burn the orchids, just to test their loyalty, just to see if they're really about the cause, and make them do a few things before they take them to the actual area where the smoke is. They try to do a couple things with them to see how they act and see what they do. It's like a test. When Tally does the burning mission to go burn the orchids, Shay falls into the fire, and some of the wardens, like the robots from the city, almost catch her, and Tally jumps down and saves her. So that really, really impresses the rest of the rebels, and it's really, of everyone, super impresses David, right? Oh, David is Keith Powers, by the way. Yeah, David is Keith Powers. He's the leader of the smoke, okay? So that really impresses David, aka Keith Powers, Now he's having a little crush on Joey King, aka Tally. Okay? And then she makes it so then after they do that little cause, and how they're getting around is David has a helicopter, which is in this movie considered ancient technology. Like them having a helicopter, they don't even call it a helicopter. They're like, it's this old war machine that they used to use before the ruins were made. And they just call it some sort of old wartime contraption. But we all know it's a helicopter. And that's considered very ancient technology. Like in the city, you don't need a helicopter. You have like hoverboards because everything is has a magnetic grid, so you can hover anywhere. And like you have like special flying plane, like hovercraft planes and things like that. Like there's no helicopters, there's no like planes and stuff like that. All those things are considered, there's no cars either. Like there's nothing like that. Like all those things are considered ancient technology. And so they have a helicopter, which is how they fly to the places where the orchids are being planted and burn it down. And they have like attached to the helicopter, they have like a flamethrower to like burn through things while they're in the air. So they fly away. Tally really impressed them that way. They head to the smoke. Now they're living in the smoke, and Tally's living there. And every day she's trying to kind of gather information on where this weapon that Dr. Cable told her is, because she doesn't want to call Dr. Cable before she has proof that they're actually going to destroy the city. Because just like they're kind of starting to get used to her and be impressed with her and like the things that she was doing, she's starting to get impressed with them too. She's starting to kind of fall for their ideologies of like, hey, we like you just the way you are. You don't need to have surgery for us to think you're pretty. Like, hey, we live off the land, so all the food here is natural. And when she tastes the food, she's so impressed because she's like, I've never had food taste like this. The food tastes so good. She's like, that's what real food tastes like. Like, it's not computerized food and stuff, This is like real from the ground food. Because they grow all their own food, they live off the land, they make all their own materials, They build their own tools. Like everything they do in the smoke is all completely done and made by themselves. Okay, so she's slowly kind of starting to kind of fall for their lifestyle as well. Like they go fishing for food. They're always hanging out and spending all their time together. Making different things and taking care of the land and doing all the agriculture for the land. Like everyone has to pitch in the smoke. Like that's the rules. Like everyone needs to get their hands dirty in order for them to like be able to live off this land appropriately. So they spend all their time together, just keeping track of things, doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, and she starts to kind of like it too. Like she's a bit like, And as she's trying to figure out whether or not David actually has a weapon, he's like teaching her things too. Like he's teaching her how to was it a bow and arrow she was using? Like, yeah, he like taught her how to do a bow and arrow. So that was like one of those classic like romance scenes, like where he's standing behind her and he's like, okay, like hold it like this. He's like, okay, like do it like this, like like all that type of stuff. So he's like teaching her how to shoot a bow and arrow. He's teaching her how to fish. He's teaching her how to grow food. He even gives her a pair of gloves, which to her she's like, no biggie. Like I needed gloves because my hands were getting calloused from all the labor that we've been doing. And then Tally sees the gloves immediately. She's like, where'd you get those gloves? She's like, oh, David just gave it to me. Like, my hands are callous, so he gave me gloves. And she's like, what? That means he really likes you. And she's like, what? Like, it's just gloves, girl. Calm down. My hands were bleeding. She's like, no. Here in the smoke, items have a super big value. Like, nothing is given haphazardly. Everything is really hard to come by. You think we're just getting gloves? If he has gloves, he made those gloves himself. Like, he took the time to make the gloves. Like, anything you see here, the people who have something, like, make it. Like, and that's kind of how they live in the smoke. So they barter. Like, they trade and barter. So if you're a person who's, like, really good at fishing, for example, you'll trade with someone who, like, has a lot of berries or something and grows things. So you'll trade with that person. Or if you're the person who knows how to, for example, make gloves, you would trade that for something just as valuable that is, like, hard to make, like gloves. So it's like, she's like, no, it's a big deal. He gave you those gloves. Those are his only pair of gloves. He made them himself. It's, like, hard to come by. And you don't think he does plenty of labor, too, and needs gloves? Like, if anything, David's probably doing more labor than Tally. She's new there. She don't even know what she's doing half the time. So she's like, yeah, like, he really, really likes you. So, she's really starting to become one of the people of the smoke. She's really living with them, right? One night, David starts to like her so much, he takes her to his parents' house, girl. Yes, he's like, I'm ready for you to meet the family. Okay? So he goes to his family's house with her, and she meets his parents, and she finds out that basically... Oh, here we go. I'm about to read it right now. Okay, Tally and David share a moment. Oh, yeah, they had this moment where they almost kissed or something, and she tosses her tracker into the fire after renouncing the system and rejecting her chance to become pretty. So now that she's really has become accustomed to the lifestyle of the smoke, and she realizes they're not bad people, and they're not planning to kill anybody, and they just want to, be themselves and no longer be pretty, she kind of starts to fall for David too, especially after Tally told her, like, because Tally has a hint and a slight suspicion. I mean, not Tally. Shay has a slight suspicion that Tally's not there for the most authentic reasons, because when Tally first saw her, she was like, oh, I'm here to save you and stuff. Like, I thought you were in danger, because that's what Dr. Cable told her. Dr. Cable was like, I think Shay's in danger. So, and Shay's like, I'm not in danger, and I'm not going anywhere. You're not taking me away from this place. This is what I want to do now. I want to live like this. And so Shay knows that Tally's not completely convinced of the lifestyle of the smoke. So after Shay sees that David gave her gloves, she's like, look, stop playing with all of us. Stop playing with David. Stop playing with me. Like, are you really about this life or not? Because if he's to the point where he's giving you items, he's really, really invested in you. Like, don't keep playing with us. And so after that night, when like her and David share another moment, she's kind of like, you know what, like, I'm gonna just stay here. I'm gonna just be a smoke baby. I'm gonna just be a part of the smoke. So the necklace that she's supposed to be using to signal Dr. Cable to come get them, she takes it off and she throws it into the fire. And she's just like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna just live here forever, right? And she's never going to become pretty now, because if she threw away the necklace and Dr. Cable can't get her, she can never have the surgery. As she begins to grow close with David, he and his family reveal the truth about the surgeries. They limit human free will, so the pretties are easily controlled. A select few are given a cure to become scientists surrounding the scheme. David's parents worked as some of those scientists until they discovered the truth and fled. Ever since, they have been working to develop the cure. So basically when David introduces her to his parents, she finds out that they're the original creators of the smoke. They are some of the original scientists who came up with the surgery to make pretties. And when they used to be pretty themselves, because they obviously had the surgery too back in the day, but you need to like revamp the surgery, because one thing about the pretties, they never age either. So you never like see an old person in the city of the pretties. They stay young. They stay at whatever age. Damn, is that 16 then? I never even thought about it like that. They stay at the looks of a 16-year-old version of themselves. No, because when John B had the surgery, he did look older than 16 after the surgery. So it's like I would say like a 25-year-old version of yourself for the rest of your life, okay? So you do kind of have to get little revamps in your surgery and stuff like that, but it's easy. It's not like plastic surgery of how you think of it today, where you got to sit there and get cut up and stuff. It's like a chamber that you kind of stand in, and then like it electronically plastic surgery is used, and you just walk out like a brand new person. There's no healing time. There's no like laying in a hospital bed. There's none of that. You just walk in and walk out, okay? But you do have to get the surgery, I guess, revamped every once in a while, okay? They say that when they were scientists and they used to work with Dr. Cable to make the surgery of the pretties, as they kept doing research on how to improve the surgery, because people kept dying. And when Tally hears it, she's like, wait, what? People die from the surgery? They're like, oh yeah, the city doesn't tell anybody that. But there are a couple people, like, obviously it's a ratio. Most people are able to survive, but it does kill some people. It's not 100% proof way of being pretty. There's a chance of you having major complications from the procedure. And we were trying to figure out a way to decrease the number of people who die during the surgery. We wanted to make it so everyone can become pretty without needing to die. As we were doing research for how to make the surgery safer, we also started to realize that the surgery also takes away your free will, because the surgery impacts a certain area of your brain where your, decision-making processes are, and it takes away that, like, the stimulation in that area of your brain, where now you're kind of a dimmed down version of yourself. You're less able to like just decide easily the things you want and need, which would explain why after Paris had the surgery, he, for example, no longer wanted the scar. He didn't want to associate with Tally. He just felt different about a lot of things. He just really wanted to fit in now. He really wanted like certain things to be the way the city thinks of things to be. So it changes you after you get the surgery, is what they realized, like in your brain composition. So after David's parents realized that the surgery was that dangerous and they were trying to stop it from happening, and like they were like against, changing people's brain chemistry and taking away their free will just so they'll be pretty, they were like, thrown out of the city, basically. I don't know if they were thrown out or if they ran out, but they escaped basically the city, because once they decided to stop getting the surgeries to keep being pretty, and they're not like working on the research to like continue making more pretty people, you either comply or you die. That's the two options. So they end up moving to the forest, and that's where they gave birth to David. So David's never had the surgery, and he's never lived in the cities, either the ugly city or the pretty city. And they raised him the all natural way. They like raised him to know about, free will, and they raised him to read, and like they raised him to respect nature, and to, understand that he's perfect just the way he is, and he's handsome, and that he doesn't need surgery to be a better version of himself, and like he doesn't need all these extra, technological advances just to feel like his life is fulfilled. He can live off the land and like be a good person, and those things matter more than just caring about all these superficial things. And so he's just raised in a very down to earth way in the forest with his parents all his life, which is why he's such a radical that he is. And that's how he starts to smoke and starts recruiting people to join the smoke, and like just making an alternate lifestyle for people other than just having to live by the city standards. And his parents, of course, fully support him, considering that they don't believe in the city standards either, and that, they know what's going on behind the scenes of people dying from the surgery and losing their free will. And while David is running the smoke and trying to encourage people to no longer live by the rules of the city, his parents, since they're scientists, are working on a cure. They're working on a way to reverse the effects of the pretty surgery on the pretty people, so that for one, they can get their mental composition back of like having free will, and, reverse the effects of the surgery as well, as far as so-called making them pretty, which is a very unnatural and alien looking pretty version of themselves. Okay. Yeah, so they're developing a cure. Okay, her active tracker signals Dr. Cable, who arrives with the troops to round up the rebels. So remember I told you she had started to relate more to David and the way of the smoke, and decided that, forget it. She's just never going to get the surgery, and she's going to live with the ugly people in the forest and just be an all-natural gal, okay? So when she threw her necklace into the fire, she thought it destroyed the necklace. But what she didn't realize is, as the necklace was being burnt inside the fire, it was also activated the signal to Dr. Cable of where they were. So Dr. Cable pulls up on them with the rest of her reinforcements and her, soldiers, her pretty soldiers, to come destroy the smoke, okay? Oh, one thing we find out about the cure is they have half of the cure. The part of the cure that they have is the natural half of the cure, the part that they need to make the people back to natural. But they need a synthetic version of some of the chemicals that is used for the surgery that only exists in the city in order to complete the cure. So they only have half of the cure. In order to get the other half of the cure, they would have to get it from the city, which they obviously can't go back to. Just a little detail that was important that happened then, okay? Anyway, Dr. Cable arrives to the smoke to destroy everything. Paris is now modified to be an enhanced soldier and kills David's father. Bro, when I'm telling you Paris touches down and just cracks this man's neck in one swift motion and kills him, that's how he did it. He just comes in, he grabs him by the head and just spins his neck, and he kills David's dad. And they watch, and the rest of everyone else watches in horror, because they're tied down and they're all screaming bloody mercy, and there's just nothing that can be done. David's dad is dead. And he's like one of the like main people of the smoke, because he literally founded the smoke. Like, he's the first ever, him and his wife were the original people to move out to the forest. So he's a very important person to everyone there. So including David, obviously. So now David's dad is dead, and to everyone else, he's a founder of the smoke. Okay. So, basically Paris had been offered by Dr. Cable to enhance his prettiness and make him even more pretty, and also give him a better body and physical like ability. So now he's able to like jump super high. He's basically a super soldier. Like, think Captain America. They Captain America'd him. Like, he was already in his new pretty body and an enhanced version of himself, but she gives him like she doubled up his ratio. Like, she gave him everything, So that's why he's able to like kill David's father so easily, for example, because now he has super strength. He just spins his head and boom. And when Dr. Cable arrives and everything, everyone at the smoke is like, what the heck? Like, how did they find us? And she reveals that Tally's necklace is the reason why she came and how she found them. So now everyone is looking at Tally like a traitor. They're like, oh my God, you traitor, you came here and we showed you the ways of our land and we respected you and we gave you a chance to live a different life. And you're the one who have now not only caused the death of David's dad, but for them to ruin our home. Okay. But still, she convinces David to take her with him to free the captured rebels who are held in a labs facility. Oh yeah, she finds a way to escape. I forgot how she escapes. She just runs off or something, and she escapes, and so does David and David's mom. Dr. Cable kind of lets them go, though, anyway, because she's like, oh, we'll find them later. Who cares? Like, the main thing I wanted was to destroy the smoke, and now it's destroyed, so I don't really care. Tally, David, and some of Tally's friends make a plan to rescue the captured rebels. Tally's friends create a diversion that allows Tally and David to arrive to where the rebels are held. Everyone is freed except Shay, who has already undergone her procedure. So yeah, once they captured everyone from the smoke, their plan is to start giving them all their surgeries. They're like, oh yeah, you're not gonna come here and be ugly. And plus, in order for them to like brainwash all the people from the smoke, the best option is for them to have the surgery, because like we discovered from David's parents, that the surgery also takes away your free will, so that you don't want certain things, so that you don't need certain things. You're okay with just living the lifestyle of the pretty. So yeah, they just start giving everyone surgery, so then that way their brain is also dimmed down to a point where they can control them. So they took Shay to go do that. She's the first one because she's the most rebellious. Like she's the main one who's always been like, no, I'm never getting this surgery. I hate the idea of becoming a pretty. Like she's really, really against the procedure. So they start off with her. And so now when they go to get Shay, Shay's pretty now. And when I'm telling you Shay's so different, like, you know, before she was giving real dyke energy and now she's like fully prettified and like she just is like really a dodo bird. Like she's not really thinking about anything. She's like, don't I look good? Like the first thing she says to them after she's pretty, the first thing Shay says to them is, you're not jealous, are you? Like the minute she becomes pretty, she thinks everyone's jealous of her who's not pretty. She thinks like, she's just kind of like a shallow version of herself. Because when she told them, you're not jealous, are you? After they found her, I just was in such shock because I was just like, that's really how some people think. Like they really think that anytime someone looks at them, that somebody's jealous of them. And it's like an insane like thought process that we have in society because looks are so glamorized that the minute you think of yourself as prettier than people, you also always assume that someone's after you, you know? You always assume that someone wants what you have. When not everyone wants to look like you, you know? Like not everyone cares what you think is pretty. Not everyone's opinion of what pretty is the same as you, you know? Like, I'm not gonna keep talking, but okay, Shay who's already undergone the procedure, completely changed and oblivious of her previous cause. Oh yeah, and Shay completely forgets about even the cause to not be pretty, even the cause of the smoke. She's completely, her brain, all she thinks about is her looks now. Like every time Shay can see a reflection, she's just looking in the mirror. She is taken with the rebels to a safe spot, but they still rescue her. They take her away and from the Dr. Cable and stuff, they rescue her and whatever. When Paris confronts the team, Tally tries to get through to his true personality. Although Paris shows promise, David protects Tally and throws Paris off of a building into a rubble to his death. Yeah, so like, Paris is about to kill Tally at one point, and she's trying to use the old version of themselves of like, look at me in the eyes, Paris, please, please, it's me. Oh yeah, they used to have nicknames for each other. They used to make nicknames for each other based off their insecurities of their ugly versions. So for example, Paris felt like he had a big nose before he got the surgery. So Tally used to call him Nose. And for Tally, she used to always squint. Like her eyes made this squinting type look whenever she was looking at people. So he used to call her Squint. So their nicknames for each other was Nose and Squint. So she's like calling him, she's like, Nose, it's me, Squint. Please, like, you know, return to yourself. Stop trying to kill me right now. But he's about to kill her, so David kills him and throws him off of a building. So Paris is gone. Paris is dead. While escaping, David's mother reveals that she stole the final piece of her cure. Yet she does not want to administer it to Shay as she is unwilling. Yeah, so now that Shay is pretty, they need a pretty person to test the cure on. But the thing is, because they live a more natural set of ideologies and a more free will way of living, they don't want to start off their cure with an unwilling subject. Like to them, it's like the worst way to start if they're going to test the cure. Because for one, they don't know if it's actually going to work. And for two, it's supposed to be a way of life to be not pretty. So a part of not being pretty is deciding to not be pretty. So because Shay's pretty now and her mental facilities is no longer the same Shay and she enjoys being pretty, she doesn't want to be ugly again. She's like, no, I'm not taking the cure. I love being pretty. I would never want to be ugly again. That's a nightmare. Oh my God, being pretty is the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, look at me. You guys are just jealous. Like, no. And so Shay's now unwilling to take the cure. Whereas the old Shay, if they had asked her to take the cure so that they could test it, would have 100% done it, like with no question. But because she's unwilling, they're like, whatever, Shay's not an option. We need to find another pretty person who's willing to take the cure so that we can see if it works and then save the rest of the city. Tally volunteers to undergo the surgery and test the cure. She swears she will not let being pretty change her drive for justice. She bids David and her friends goodbye. So she leaves, she goes back to the city, and she gets the surgery. Now because she betrayed David and them and they were able to destroy the smoke and all that, I guess Dr. Cable's willing to let her get the surgery. So she's all good to go on that part. Later, Tally is seen living as a pretty in the city, but she has kept her promise and her scar still remains. So on her hand, she still has a scar, but now her face is pretty. She has the gold eyes, her hair color is a little, like, I think to white people, like, becoming pretty is just getting highlights. Because the way they put highlights in Joey King's hair and brighten their eyes and called it a day, it reminds me of, what's that movie that I had watched not too long ago? Bro, what's the name of that movie? Oh, Just My Luck, where they had Chris Pine in there and they put glasses on him and shriveled up his hair in a hat. And then they were like, he's ugly. And then when they finally decided to make him beautiful, they just took off the hat and the glasses and all of a sudden he was Chris Pine. That's basically what they did to Joey King. Like, they literally just gave her bright eyes, put on a little makeup, and gave her highlights. And boom, she's pretty. And that's the end of the movie. It ends there with her in the city, living as a pretty person, and David and the rest of and his mom and a few other of the people from the smoke who they were able to save are living back outside in the smoke again. And I don't know when the sequel's coming, but it needs to come immediately. This movie was so well made. The storyline plot of like them living in a futuristic society where people are obsessed with looks is so current day social media coded to the point where it's like you can see every like kind of parallel to our current day society and where we're headed if we don't start to address some of the mental brainwashing that becomes of people because of filters and like our obsession with looks. Like, people are obsessed in current day society with being good looking and doing whatever it takes to be considered other than, you know, and like just how technology slowly kind of takes away people's ideals and their willingness to like create things beyond just what you're going to see on a screen, because they even lose track of all sort of like art in any natural way. Like, no one makes art, no one makes clothes, no one does anything special that you can hold in your hands. Everything is about, anything that's in the physical form is about how you look, and everything else is done on a screen. They don't even have books anymore, which is another thing that I thought was such a good parallel to current day society of like how we're slowly getting rid of physical copies of things. And it's like, as we get rid of physical copies, how are we going to make sure that the computerized versions of all these physical copies that we're getting rid of don't also get rid of certain certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Certain controversial pieces of text. Because not every book is like widely agreed upon when it comes to the opinion made in that book. So it's like, as we're getting rid of the physical copies of things and we're moving to digital versions, how are we going to make sure that they don't get rid of things that they don't want us to read because it might make us anti whatever new digital version of things that they're making? And also, if they make digital versions of books, how do we know that they're not going to like edit words within the book so that it's like, that so that they can feed us propaganda? Like, that's something we should think about. Like, I don't know, I never thought about that before this movie, for example. It's just like one thing after another that you really have to think about. Like, like, are we sure we know what we're asking for when we're asking for all of these technological advances? And it's like, another thing about being pretty is like, they're also blinded by their want and need to be pretty so bad that they're like willing to give up free will just in order to be pretty. And think about like the shallowness it takes to keep up with your looks constantly. It's like, they made it so that the surgery takes away that part of your brain. But if we think about it in real life of like, how do you even become a person who glows up or becomes a prettier version of yourself? There is a certain part of you that you have to kind of get rid of and not care about in order to become a glowed up or pretty version of yourself. You like have to be a bit obsessive compulsive about how you're perceived to constantly look pretty, which gets rid of a part of you that is okay with imperfections and like able to accept certain imperfections because you don't have the time to constantly be worried about how you look. Anyone who constantly focuses on their looks can be pretty. If you spend all your day and all your time making sure that, your lips are constantly moisturized or colored, and constantly making sure that your hair is done perfectly and that your outfit is perfectly put together and that, you're wearing makeup and contour and concealer and all these things, anyone can be a perfectly pretty version of themselves at all times of the day. But you're going to have to give up a lot of time that would otherwise be taken to actually use your brain. So I feel like it's like a conversation of like, in this movie, because they're taking away the need for you to constantly be the person to make sure you're pretty, and they're just going to mechanically do it for you, they also have to take away that part of your brain within the surgery too, which I thought was quite interesting. And I do think you have to do that to yourself in order to be a person who's obsessed with getting surgery enough that you care more about that. Because one of the lines in the movie that really stood out to me was she was like, I don't want to be free, I want to be pretty. And it's like that. It's like, I don't want to like, spend my days actually coming up with hobbies and like, trying to make the world a better place. I just want to be pretty. Because if you're focused on improving the world and changing things, do you have time to be focused on your looks all day? I don't think so. I don't think MLK was in the mirror that much. I don't think Malcolm X was worried about his temp fade, like you have to give up that part of yourself, which I thought was an interesting dichotomy that they were touching on throughout the movie of like, do you have to give up your mental free will and ability to think for yourself in order to be pretty? Because even think about how people who consider themselves good looking hate ugly people. We have to be honest. They do. They don't like people who can remind them that they're normal too. Because one thing about being pretty and like, or maybe not being pretty, but being considered pretty is like, it's kind of a mental state. It's a state of being that you're convincing yourself that you're better than others, that because you're pretty or like because you're the ideal standard of looks. So it's because it's such a mental state to be considered pretty, it's a very delicate place you have to stay in to continue to think of yourself as that. It can easily be taken away from you in a small way. Like think of even like how you might think of yourself as a pretty person on a day-to-day basis, but when you see someone else who you consider pretty, you stop thinking of yourself as pretty sometimes. Like it's a very delicate place to be in to consider yourself as pretty. So it's like if you're around the wrong people or in the wrong states, you'll no longer consider yourself pretty. So you do have to kind of stay in a constant state of like this balance, like this very easily tipped balance of like realizing that you're just a normal person and no one cares that much about how you look. Like if you don't care a lot about your looks when you consider yourself pretty, you can quickly start to realize that none of the rest of us care that much either. So if you don't place a high importance on looks, you slowly start to lose that hierarchy over people. Because if you don't place a hierarchy on looks, then other people will slowly stop placing a hierarchy on looks and your power ceases to exist. You have to constantly convince everybody in the world to think looks are important in order for you to stay in your hierarchy if you're pretty. Like if you're pretty, your power lies in everyone caring about looks. The minute the rest of us stop caring about looks, you lose all your power. The minute the rest of us don't think you're that pretty, you lose all your power. So you have to make sure that society cares about looks and that it's an important topic and that there's importance upon looks, or else you lose your status. It's actually a very delicate balance you play every day with yourself. Even think about how like most very attractive women have an ugly partner. It's like even that in itself helps them convince themselves that this hierarchy is important, because it's like if this man didn't have me, he would no longer be considered an important person because his proximity to me increases his status. Like it runs deep. It runs deep. Oh, another thing I was thinking about is how you have to betray ugly people to become pretty. And that was really interesting to me of like how when Paris became pretty, he no longer could associate himself with Tally. It was like, if he allowed himself to befriend her in her ugly state, what importance did his pretty state have anymore if now that he's pretty, he still hangs out with ugly people? It's like, what was the point of becoming pretty if now I'm still with the same type of people? It's like, I'm trying to change up things now. Like he even said that at one point. He's like, I'm trying to be different now. Like I'm not trying to keep remembering all my ugly habits, And it's like, you start to associate even habits you had while you considered yourself as ugly things, caring about anything besides your looks is an ugly thing now. that you're pretty. Now that you're pretty, you have to focus on things that pretty people think of as important, which is other pretty people. And anything beyond that is something that's going to bring you back to your ugly state of mind. Like I said, I feel like all of this showed is like a lot of these things that we consider about looks is really your state of mind. It's like, do you consider yourself pretty or do you consider yourself ugly? What do you think about yourself as well? You know? And what was scary about me was, what was the scariest thing to me was how the parents just ship their kids off as soon as, like, because they're ugly and they're not pretty. It's like, it even makes me think of childhood and how like they start that brainwashing on us at a very early age of like, you know, treating you special or not special as a child based off your looks, or like, you know, making sure you understand even as a child that as you grow up, make sure you're good looking or we're not going to know you, you know? Another conversation I feel like that was really deep in here was like that conversation between natural versus manipulation of like, you know, what's better, the natural way of things or the manipulated version of it. Like, because none of the pretty people were actually pretty. They were normal people just like the uglies with now an improved sense of self-importance because of a surgery, which was insane. Yeah, and even like that moment of like when Shay gets the surgery and her first thought was, oh, you're not jealous, are you? And it's like this thing of like, you know, I even think in real life of like how when people start to feel like they've reached a status or a status quo, they become very paranoid and start to think that like everyone who doesn't agree with their way of life is just a bit jealous of them or like doesn't want them to like have the finer things in life. And it's like, are you having the finer things in life? Or have you always considered people with these things as having the finer things in life? And now because you have it, you think you have the finer things in life. It's like this like, you know, weird like thing of like things are only as important as you make them. And like how pretty people always think that like the uglies are just so downtrodden. And it was funny that Shay of all people was saying, you're not jealous, are you? When she is the last person to even want to be pretty. She hates the concept of becoming pretty. But then when she is pretty, she thinks everyone else hates the concept of being ugly. So it's like also this thing of like, is even the ugly side the better version either? Because it's like each version of herself thought that the other version would be the one who wishes they were like her. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know. It just brought up so many different like current day issues we have and like where we're headed in society. And I just thought it was just so well made. I really, really hope that this movie gets a sequel. And if they do get a sequel, it's properly done and like as well made as the first one was. Because this one was so good. Like I really would recommend this movie to anybody because it wasn't even too long too. It's only like an hour and a half. Like it's a good length. It's well written. The actors, great cast, like just great cast. I'm like, Netflix. See, you guys are able to bring out quality. I don't know why we don't get this every time. It's always hit or miss in Netflix. Either they give us like complete BS or the movie of a century. But yeah, highly recommended this watch. Like really good. I don't regret this view at all.